Well, let's see. It is just about at the bewitching hour, so let's go ahead and start. So for this year, 2017, our goal here, my goal, and we just had a staff meeting, got everybody together. The goal is, as much as we can, we want to help you, anyone listening, your friends, whoever, is we want to help you have your dreams come true. And that means different people are going to be in different places. Some are going to be, how do I reconnect with someone? Someone is going to say, you know, I'm banging my head against the wall. I can't try any harder. Why is it so difficult, you know, for me to actually have a relationship? I mean, I'm not overly picky where I have a list of 400 things. It's not that. And whatever that is, that's going to be our goal. So that's why we don't have just a one-size-fits-all. One of the things with these questions, you'll see that people are in different places. And so hopefully today, when we address this, something will apply to you. And if not, we can go back and we'll do one of these again. All right, so let's start with the first one. Elizabeth, I've taken off the emails and stuff to try to have a little bit of confidentiality. Elizabeth asked, I'd like to ask Bob how to handle not hearing from a guy on Valentine's Day. It's not a serious relationship, but he did wish me Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. How do I convey disappointment? Or is it a sign to let it go? Bob says, don't let him take you for granted, and unfortunately, I felt that way yesterday. So one thing about Valentine's Day, this is a generalization, I realize. Men don't really think about Valentine's Day like a holiday like Christmas or New Year's. I mean, if they're in a relationship, they know they should, as crass as that might sound. But Valentine's Day is usually not a big deal for men. I mean, there's exceptions and sometimes. So if he didn't wish you Valentine's Day, sometimes men don't do that, especially early in relationship, because they don't want to either appear either overeager or commit too much. It's in the same thing, but like on the first date, you know, asking someone out on Valentine's Day, you know, that may come across as too much, too strong, or sending a woman, if the first date is Valentine's Day, a man wouldn't send her roses. I know that's not what you're saying, but he would do that because he wouldn't want to come across as too eager or he likes her too much. So I don't know as far as how far this relationship's progressed. If it's early on, I don't know that I would bring it up. I would more be inclined to see what happens. Because remember, what I'm interested in more than anything else is patterns, unless there's something that's really a really big main event. So he schedules a date for you and he decides he just doesn't show up. Okay, that to me is a big deal worth mentioning. It's a standalone event that's big. He has a habit of he doesn't follow up. Okay, that's more of a pattern. If this ends up being a pattern where he doesn't follow up with things, he doesn't bring it up, then I would. I'm inclined I wouldn't, because it may be something and it may not be something. You know, to me, what he does in the next couple of weeks is probably going to give you a good idea. Is he starting to pull away? Then I think you'll see the next couple of weeks. Or is it just something he just didn't think to wish you a happy Valentine's Day? If I had to guess, it's probably that. But if I really want to convey disappointment, probably when you talk to him, I would say simply, you know, I didn't hear from you on Valentine's Day, and I was a little disappointed. See, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not making a huge deal out of it, but then you have to let him respond with that. I wouldn't explain a lot. I wouldn't read into it too much. That's really what I'm trying to steer you away from, as far as what does it mean, because I don't know that necessarily means anything. As opposed to if he stood you up on a date or something bigger like that. But I can see why it would be disappointing. But I do hear that a lot. I heard that a lot this week. I've heard that from women wondering how to read stuff about Valentine's Day, and I know it's broad and it's different circumstances, but with men, I don't put as much stock in that, you know, unless it's been really established. Like of course I would do something for my wife. We're committed to each other. So I know to do that. Not that I wouldn't want to do it anyway, but I especially know to do it because that's a big deal to her. It means a lot to her. So I would wait, Elizabeth, for me if it was me a couple of weeks. All right, Gloria, I'm wondering if Bob has any experience with or knowledge about relationships with narcissistic men and also the difficulties associated with ending those relationships. I do have experience with that, especially when I worked at the hospital. We saw that a lot. And I'll give you a brief overview. I know it seems like, and maybe it's just because of the field I'm in, a lot of times it seems like there's a tendency now to label, especially if things aren't going well with the man, as he's narcissistic or self-centered, to put these labels on that are really intense. What I mean by that is, narcissism is a personality disorder. That doesn't mean someone's a little grumpy. I mean, narcissistic is, by definition, it comes from the Greek, someone that knows Greek mythology well, but the person that looked in the mirror all the time. It means excessive self-love. Well, with narcissistic men, the real problem is there is a horrible inferiority complex inside. There's like a hole inside their soul. And what they do is they overcompensate for that. So they feel really insecure, but they act really arrogant because they can't let anybody get near that hole, that insecurity. A lot of times it's why they can never be wrong. They can never admit they're wrong. And they may say they're sorry sort of in passing, but it's always your fault, something you've done wrong. They can be a bully, or they can be someone that just pouts and sulks for days and days because who knows what you did wrong. The difficulty I find in his relationships is usually there are things in dealing with a narcissistic man that make him really charming and wonderful. See, most women would say to me, I like a man that's self-confident, or I like that masculine energy, that he's decisive and knows what he wants. And when they're good, they're really good. And they're sincere, and they know what they want, and they go for it, stuff that's really appealing, and it gives the illusion of security, stability, because it really feels like that sort of in the moment. But the problem is when they're not good, it's traumatic, it makes you second guess yourself, and a lot of times what he points toward is the reason, is what causes the second guessing. So why are you in a bad mood, the woman says. I'm in the bad mood because you always interrupt me. You just always interrupt me, or you're never on time. And usually there's probably times she has interrupted, or maybe she's been late, or whatever he comes up with. And for those that have listened and been on these before, you'll recognize that one of the things I always look for is a disproportionate reaction, where someone's reaction is far larger than the offense or the event that someone did. And we have a number of disproportionate reactions. And I don't mean just subjectively like a little bit. I mean like a lot. So you're someone that you've gotten just a little bit of a disagreement, and that's it. You're horrible and terrible. It's breaking up. Well, that's overreacting a lot. And of course, when there's violence involved, that's overreacting. And so, if they were just bad all the time, that would make it easy. What I find is hard is, or a lot of women will second guess, is they will say intellectually, I know he's not good for me. They know that. But the feeling he creates in them when things go well, she doesn't want to give that up. And it's not a matter of intelligence. For whatever reason, my clients, the folks that join us as part of the Relationship Headquarters community, they're smart. I don't necessarily mean they're the smartest women in the world. I'd like to think that, but they're fairly insightful. I think if you're involved with us, you have an interest in being insightful and looking inside. We're not the place to what dress do I wear that every guy's going to want to marry me. So we're a little more in depth than that. And so they are insightful. They're one to look inside, and that's what makes it tough, because how could someone treat me so wonderfully and then mean so horrible? It must be something I'm doing. And what's hard for them to realize is it's usually something they're doing that's a trigger, but that's not what's causing it. Because even if they stop doing that thing, never argued with him, never interrupted, he's going to find something else to displace or project his anxiety. He feels terrible about himself. He's going to find something as a way to blame. He's got to put those uncomfortable feelings about himself somewhere. That's also why, with a man like this, is that they don't tolerate weakness in women. So if you gain 5 pounds, or your makeup is all for something, or you're sick, they're not good boyfriend material, and they're just kind of scary to be married to. It's the ultimate, you're not good enough, or you're never good enough kind of stuff. When he's in a great mood, you can do no wrong. But when you're weak or need someone, he's not a good long-term candidate. At least I wouldn't recommend it. So All right, on to Joanna. Let's see, I've tried to say things which trigger the green light in guys' minds. Like freedom, I've done the things you write in books. I don't know if I'm too straight with guys. Don't know if I am too straight in the way guys can behave or if I have too many rules. I thought that I shouldn't let anyone take me for granted. But am I taking it too far? I date quite a lot, so there must be some bad habit I keep on repeating. Thanks for your advices. So I'm assuming with this is that you're trying to actually trigger a reaction or to make them feel good. And one of the things about this is there's a couple of things. So sort of in general, is the first thing we want to do is to what's called demonstrate value. And demonstrate value is kind of like, it's similar to like being popular or being cool, like in high school. It isn't something you want to try too hard to do. That's why a lot of times when we talk about, especially in the Woman Men Adore, putting your heart first. I'm not a big believer in that everything as far as everything you look inside and everything's a reflection of how you feel, because I think feelings go up and down sometimes. But I am a big believer in putting your heart first, meaning the way almost every woman I've talked to, probably the last 20 years, they're good at putting a child first or others. They're great friends, they're loyal. Someone messes with one of their friends, they rush there to defend them or they reassure them. They'll tell them the truth too. If there's a child in danger, they put their arm around them, but they don't do that with their heart. And if I can get them to put their heart first, it's not an arrogant thing, but sometimes it's putting your arm around it, sometimes it's being honest with yourself. I'm doing something too much that I shouldn't do. Then in doing that, that's actually what starts to lower the guard. In other words, that's what comes across where you're not trying as hard. It's similar to when I tell women, if I can get you to treat all guys the same, the nice-looking ones, the not-so-nice-looking ones, well-dressed, not so well-dressed, you just kind of treat men the same in general. That's easier with some guys, the ones you like, versus other guys, the ones you don't. And in doing so, what happens is your guard just naturally goes down and you become more easy or softer in their eyes. So in other words, without trying to do something, because then once you do that, what happens is we need the guy to come closer. There needs to be some type of relationship or something when we're doing this. And what we're looking for is not so much trying green light things as much as, can I get you when he does something you like in the moment to make a big deal out of it? So if there's a man and there's a woman I'm trying to impress, and I want her to, think she's pretty or smart, I don't just, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but this is just for illustrative purposes. I don't just walk up and say, wow, you're pretty, or you're so smart, because there's no context. And hopefully that's silly. In the same way, so if I'm having trouble with it, the first thing I'm looking for is I wonder if you're trying too hard. I don't doubt the sincerity of it. And if we're as far as being taken for granted, being taken for granted is more where you do too much stuff or you listen too long. It's not so much where you stop them from doing stuff. A lot of times it's more about you not doing as much. And this primarily gets into what are you good at. So if you're good at giving, then let's don't give too much. Let's be careful not to overgive. If you're someone that's good at taking charge, be careful. Don't take charge too much. Don't overuse your gift. And at least that's the place. If I'm talking with you one-on-one, that's the place I'd be looking at, because I like your thought as far as there must be some bad habit. And what I like is you didn't say what's wrong with me. And that actually, to me, gives you a head start. A lot of folks will say what's wrong with me. It's not that there's really something wrong with them. They're probably doing something that isn't working, which I don't think is necessarily them. And the way you said, it's like a bad habit. It's a good way to describe it. And it's something that probably keeps you safe, probably works in a lot of areas, but probably doesn't lend itself toward being vulnerable, or it's not inviting. So those are at least the places I would look at. So I try to give you more than you need to kind of poke around and see which fits. But look at those and then see if something stands out for you. All right, let's see. Janet, let's see. If you're not careful, you're going to lose me forever, and he is leaving your house. Will it work if I walked away? What Janet's talking about is in the How Do I Get Him Back program, I'll go ahead and give you a tease. There's one section at the very end, like if nothing else works, I'd suggest to women, tell the guy, if you're not careful, you'll lose me forever. Now, when I say that, what I've learned is not all, but a lot of women want something to do. They want something to prod him, to scare him, to motivate him. And I tell them, I go, don't do this unless it's a last resort, because once you say that, there really isn't anything else to do, or it's not going to mean anything. This is a last-ditch final. And, you know, will it work? Well, remember, you're not going to be using this unless nothing else has. I mean, there's some instances, can we get any men back? No. Some men aren't good for you. Some men you really shouldn't get back with. That's not for me to tell you who that is. Some men are just bad for you. And actually, the healthy part of you has repelled them, even though we might like them. You know, going back to our talk up here about the narcissistic man, right up here. So will it work and watch what? Yeah, as far as the logistics of what you're saying, if you say it, the idea is he'll feel it, especially if you set it up the way we talked about. And him feeling it really leaves the choice up to him, because what I'm trying to do is, I've had this number of times with with husbands or guys that have gotten divorced, or women that are dating some guy that was still married, but you know they would say that he's divorced except he hasn't, you know, finished his paperwork, which means he's still married. And they don't think that's that big a deal. It's just paperwork. But then the divorce happens, and all of a sudden the reality of the divorce hits him. And what I've seen is that they tend to have regrets. Not always, but all of a sudden, because it's real, now all of a sudden the freedom they've wanted, if I can just get away from it, hits them, and they have a different feel. It's not as, it's lonely. They were dying to get out of the conflict. They couldn't wait to escape, and now the freedom, initially it feels good, but now there's this emptiness that's not there. We're trying to give him that experience before it's over. At least that's what I'm trying to do at that stage. You know, but it won't be through a long talk. And again, if you don't set this phrase up the way we talked about in the program, it comes across as just a shallow threat. So if you did it that way, will it work? Well, if you did it that way, he still should feel it with what you're asking. What he does with that gets into him, because if we're trying to awaken him and get him to realize, if you're not careful and he realizes this and he chooses to walk away, then there's a limit as to how we can do. And the other part of that is if you've done all that, I don't know that I want someone that I have to beg. So that's a little bit more than what you asked. But the short answer is, yes, that shouldn't have an impact as far as the timing of it goes. All right, let's see, Mary. Good evening, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. You're welcome. My name is Mary. I'm 25. I don't understand men when I'm in a relationship. I usually get angry when my boyfriend doesn't give me attention. Please, I want to know when a man is truly, sincerely to me and his love for me. Well, Mary, it's going to differ a little bit man to man. Every man has a different way as far as their love language. So some men, of course, are going to be more doing things, giving gifts. Some men are going to be more emotive. They're going to be more words. But usually what I'm looking for, I tell women, is tell me as far as the amount of time he spends with you in person. I know that's hard if it's long distance. And the amount of money. I'm not looking that he spends tons of money, but in other words, is he spending money on you, taking you out, and is he doing something in person with you? And that's generally a sort of an easy generalization as far as if he's investing in you. More so probably than the talks you're having. And because when, especially with time, when men spend time, men have this thing, and in general, as far as about wasting time. Women don't want to waste time either and stuff, but they don't give chances like women do. I don't think women give a lot of chances, but men really don't give chances. So if he's spending time, that's a pretty good. The other thing is, when you say you get angry, if you're getting angry with him and he's still sticking around, he's interested. Because when a man's not interested and a woman gets angry, I mean, whether he deserves it or not, see, it's just too much of a hassle to stick around if he's not interested. Because remember, women tend to like drama more than men. Women tend to be more cathartic. They feel these emotions and want to get them out, process them. Men hate drama. I mean, there's the right kind we like. But as far as that, conflict with that, it's just overwhelming. Because we don't want to feel, unless it's the feelings we think are fun. We don't want to feel, we don't enjoy that. You're upset. We just want to fix it. Just tell me what I did right, what I need to do right, what I can do right. So if he's still sticking around, that's one way to tell. But more than anything else, it's, is he spending time? Is it progressing, month to month? And the other thing with attention is, if you have to get angry, to get his attention, then I'm questioning if this guy's a good fit for you. I mean, because it's one thing for him to do something, he made a promise, didn't keep it, you get upset, nothing wrong with the feelings. But if it's your anger that's sort of keeping him in check, I would think there might be someone else that may be a better fit. Because, from an attention standpoint, I've learned this, is that different women have different ways that they like to be felt special. Some it's gifts, some it is the actual time that's spent talking on the phone. I mean, some may be both. And that with that, it takes sometimes men a little bit of time to learn that. I've told this before, there was one person years ago, and she liked the door open for her. When you get out of the car, drop her off. I mean, some women do, some don't, but some women don't like that at all. Some women think it's chauvinistic, or I can open my own door. They're not ugly like that, but they just don't get that. And so men do learn that after a while, that not every woman likes the same stuff. So sometimes there's a cautiousness about men as far as what she likes. The other part is that from a man's standpoint, there's what you like, but there's also what I like to give. So if I'm good at doing something, if I'm good at being protective, and what you really like is someone that will listen to you, I'm going to exaggerate this, I'm not making fun, just exaggerate, hour upon hour, that's not his strong suit. He's going to feel like a failure because he's never going to listen to you as long as you like. That may not mean he doesn't like you. It's just he can only listen so much. That's more of it just isn't a good fit. Then he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he cared about me enough he'd listen. No, this guy's not someone that is good at that. It just wears him out. Whereas some men, they love to listen to you. So how do you know? I would focus on the amount of time he's spending, and then if there is conflict, does he stick around with the conflict, or does he leave easily? That's probably the easiest way. Not that you want to start conflict, but conflict tends to kind of weed out those that are potential versus those that are not potential. And we get rid of that one. Normally, I thought we got this. Idea says, why is the guy I'm dating passive? He's always very excited when I call him. He likes to hear from me, and why not pick up the phone? Well, the short answer, this is not to be flippant. The short answer is, I wonder if he knows that you will call, so therefore he doesn't have to. Which means, my guess is your answer to that is, but I have waited before. Then I would say, I don't know that you've waited long enough. So why is he doing it? Probably because he knows you'll call, especially based on reaction. Now, if you wait, remember, if you're waiting, that's you being the feminine energy. We like that. And he doesn't call, okay, well, then my question is, okay, if he's excited when you call, and he can't find the time or the energy to call you, see, then I have a question about him, not what you're doing wrong, or not what is it you're not doing, because the fact that he gets excited when you call, you've done your part. I mean, if I'm working with someone and the relationship's strained, my goal is I'm trying to get it to the point where there's an interaction or something, where there's some chemistry or some feeling she can tell that it was a good date or it was a good phone call, because that feeling, that should be all that's required to motivate a man. I mean, it's not that hard. It's really not. And so this is similar. I've had a couple of guy clients that there was someone, male clients, they would tell me they had a hang-up about this particular woman they were dating. No, Bob, she's pretty, she's fun. And I would pat my pockets and say, pretty and fun, that's about as good as I got. I don't have anything beyond that. So I'm not following you. And hopefully they would laugh. I would say, so what else is the problem? Because if you're looking for more than that, I don't know that there is more than that. And usually it would be something else. So I would wait. I would let him call. I would see if he does, and then when he does call, of course, you show your excitement. You turn it on. You light up. I don't think that'll be hard. And then let's see what he does. But that's why I wonder. I wonder if there's just not enough gap in there. And remember with dating also, one of the biggest keys early on is we like tension. And that tension is what helps motivate him. It might drive you a little crazy at times. It might be unnerving, but that tension is really critical in dating. All right, let's see. Three months ago, I started dating a man 10 years older than me. He's overwhelmed in business. He says, yes, I'm very cerebral right now. Knowing this, I have 3 questions. How can I assist him in getting through these next few months with also feeling the need for connection? Okay, some of that is going to be a him thing, and I'm not saying this is fair. So let's separate should versus practical. So this is your boyfriend. Should he be available to you emotionally? Yes, I would agree with you. He should. If you guys are sitting in my office, I don't know that I would say it that way to him, but I would say, you know, women like to feel connected. They like to know they're part of your life. He probably knows this. So I don't think it's an insight problem, and I don't think it's a mean, horrible, he's just lazy problem. My guess is most of the time when men do the cerebral thing go in their head, it's the way of being overwhelmed. It's like there's a fire inside of us, and we have to get that fire calmed down. And once we get it calmed down, then we can come talk to you. If we talk to you while the fire is going on, that doesn't relieve stress for us. It actually feels like now I'm juggling 2 things in 2 hands. It's like one more thing. It's like a distraction. And so how can I assist him? If you were, the connection thing is probably going to come and go, and that has more to do with his accessibility. So I don't know this, but let's imagine his business is close to being insolvent or close to being bankrupt. If that's the case, he feels like he's drowning, he's not going to have a lot of emotional energy left to connect with you. I don't mean that to be ugly. He feels like he's dying. If it's just normal day-to-day business kind of stuff, that's different. He'll have more of those. This to me is more of the who you're dating more than men in general. How can I assist him? You know, men really don't like to be helped. In fact, they kind of hate it. But what they love is if you can find a moment when he's struggling and he opens up to you about it, what they want is your willingness to convey your belief in his ability to solve the problems. But that's what makes him feel macho, feels strong, feels empowered, feels masculine, just like he's a warrior. And it goes along the lines of, gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna get this extra line of credit. You know, we need to borrow $1 million to stay afloat for this month. If I can just get the $1 million, the next product's going to launch or something. And you say, well, I don't know how you're going to get the $1 million, but I know you. And I know you'll do it. I don't know how, but I trust you. See, that would be gold. Now, you have to wait for that circumstance to come up. Because that connection point, it's not that you'll have a lot of them, but men keep score like that. Men keep score because in that moment, you're the woman that gets him. And he still doesn't have enough to connect with you and open up much, but that's what breeds loyalty. That's what, in his mind, starts thinking, who else? What's the point of looking? What's the point of looking? That's what I would do if I went to connect. I would look for those moments. Number 2, how can I get him to set plans with me when I see him? Not knowing when the next time might be, because most of the time I either ask or it's last minute. I don't think you're going to like this answer, but the short answer is that whenever he asks you if it's last minute, you're busy. You see, if he's setting plans at the last minute, my concern is that he's taking you for granted, and that's my worst fear. Now, that's kind of scary. It's easy for me to say, you know, don't seem last minute, but I'm going back to tension. I'm trying to create some tension. I'm trying to make him feel that if he lollygags and takes his sweet time, someone else is going to scoop you up off the market. Because a big part of motivation is if folks either go toward pleasure or they go away from pain. Basic NLP teaching. And most of the time people will do more to avoid pain, especially men. It's not that that's what you want to do, but going back to what we said earlier, if pretty and smart, that's not enough to motivate someone, then I have a question about the guy. Is he so overwhelmed with what he's doing He sees me as someone to fill in last minute. If I want to create a sense of desire, I have to create a sense of urgency. It's not so much through a talk, because see, men know that when women talk, they mean it in the moment, but what men learn is that once a woman's emotions change, a lot of times she doesn't follow through with it. It's not that she's not smart. It's that men have learned to outlast women a lot of times. So she says this when she's angry, she issues a threat, like this. But give it a week or two and I ask her to do something, and all of a sudden she thinks that I've changed, and she's most likely to give in, yes. So that's what we don't want. So if it's last minute, his idea, you're busy, you'd love to, but I'm sorry, I've already got plans, so that he starts to realize, I wait, she's not available, which means you may have to wait a lot longer than you'd like. See, you don't have leverage with this one because he's either overwhelmed or he's just a workaholic. A lot of what workaholics will do is they make it a point not to feel. So that's why they're guarded against that. They're not going to feel unless they want to. Which leads us to number 3. What is the best way to approach getting him to let his guard down when he's been hurt in the past, felt emotionally abused and taken advantage of? The short answer is you can't. We have to have permission to do that. So like when I'm working with clients and they're coming to me, I can't even access that until they're ready. I mean, it's our time. We've set up the time. They fill out the paperwork. They're ready, but I can't push that because it feels too out of control. What I think you're talking about is how can I let him know that I'm safe, he can depend on me, that I'm a safe person. At least I think that's what's behind that question. And you have to wait for the moment. It won't come up often. You demonstrating, number 1, that you're not someone that he can take for granted, which means you're not available last minute. You don't just happy. You don't do that. And also that when he does something and he needs you, you're able to convey your belief in him. That will make you safer. Those 2 things. Now, they take a while to accumulate, I realize, but those things, given enough time, will set you apart from other women. And last one is, how can I find out how he's feeling about me and where this is going? I don't know that you can, because this gets back to him sharing feeling. The thing I would look for is if you stop being available last second, does he continue to pursue you? That would be a good sign for me, more of his actions. Where is this going? I don't think he knows, probably short term. He talks to his friends because his friends are safe. It's easy for him talking to his friends because there's no risk with them. All right, why does it take him 4 months space in order to figure things out? If I just say yes to him, then I feel it's too easy after 4 months approaching me and sending me a Valentine's Day e-card and asking me out. How should I be? I think what you're saying is, why does it take him so long to take action? Which means some men are just more cautious than others. Now, if you're talking about a pattern where it always seems to take him a long time to either make a decision or to fall to something, then you have to ask the question, is this someone I want to be with? Is this way of dealing with things, is this way of approaching stuff, is this something that I can do? If it's not that, then it can be it can be he's shy. It can be that he feels you're unapproachable. I don't know the setting. Like if this was a work setting and you work closely together, I can see him being cautious. Because if he asked you out and you said no, he's got to see you every day, that would make sense to me. So I'm looking at the circumstances, his personality, and if it takes him 4 months and he asks you out, I don't know that I would play hard to get with that one because you might have to wait 4 to 8 more months. But if you see a pattern, then that would be something, if you start dating him, I would address with him and ask. It may just be he's shy or cautious. But that's sort of a guy-to-guy thing. That's why we're wondering. The fact that he would send you a card, and if he would ask you out, that's a better sign that he just keeps dancing around stuff indefinitely. And that to me was wouldn't be bad with exactly what are we doing. And that would be fair to say, gosh, how long is this going to take? All right. Let's see. Leslie, if you're on a dating website, what should you make sure is or isn't in your profile? How should you reach out to someone or answer someone reach out to you? You know, there are companies that actually write dating profiles, and I'm not saying that doesn't work. In fact, I've got a client, we're going to have her do that just for something different. The biggest thing has more to do with red flags. Think about when you read a profile. The negative things stand out most, and the negative things are more where you can tell someone's guarded. You know, if you're this, don't apply. If you're a needy, weak man, you know, don't apply. No little boys apply. If you're desperate, don't. I mean, the things that come across like you're being picky. You know, I mean, some men I've read profiles for men. I've gone in and, you know, don't want any high drama women. That's a terrible thing for a guy to put in a profile. I mean, who wants a woman that complains all the time every day? But you don't put that in a profile, because a profile is like a billboard when you're driving down the road. A profile, you've got one profile, but there's 1,000 other profiles. So people glance at profiles to start with. And your goal of the profile is to get them to read it and to stay on the page. So we're not trying to be spectacular or weird, you know, put yellow everywhere, everything bold, or I don't think they let you do that. We're not trying to be flamboyant per se, but we're trying not to give someone an excuse to turn away. In other words, we don't want to try too hard. So as much as you can with authentic, if you were seeing someone in person, we want to be a warm and inviting, you know, we want to tell a little bit about ourselves, what we're looking for. Men don't read profiles as in-depth as women do. What men focus on, just like in real life, is the picture. And I hope it doesn't come across the wrong way, but men are visually attracted, and then they read the profile to see, I like her picture, and is the profile, is she someone that's really angry all the time? Is she someone that's needy? Doesn't rule out anything. And I've seen some that I thought were done well, and one of the things this woman did was she emphasized, sort of what she was looking for. She had a couple of kids, and that things she was looking for in a man. But she did it in a way where she said it was something that were things that most men, could identify with. You're someone, that's kind to animals. And then she said some specific things. I like to go to, here in Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves baseball. And it was things that, as I was reading this, I remember going, most men could relate to this. And at least my philosophy is with the ads and online dating, I don't think you don't want to screen. Remember, a billboard, you're trying to get as many people possible to look at it. The screening takes place once you get them on the phone, once you actually meet them in person for the first time. Trying to screen with an ad, you end up screening a lot of guys the way that could be a good potential. So I mean, we want to screen certain things. If if some guy's married and just wants a hookup buddy, I'm single, that's all I want. You screen for like big things, but you don't want to screen for all those other things, because guys, remember, when they've got 1,000 choices, if something looks like it's too much effort, they just click. And women do the same thing. It looks like too much effort, I just click. So we want the ones that are a good fit for you, or could be a good fit, to read further. And if we'll think in terms of screening being something that you do much later down the line, which means you're going to get more guys that are a waste of time, or more guys that aren't a good fit, I'll say it that way, than you are a good potential. And that's normal. If all you're going for is, I only want guys to apply that are a great fit, you're going to be disappointed, because you'll get very few, because your screening criteria, what you're using as a filter, actually is repelling those guys that can be a good fit. So really, if whatever, 8 out of 10 guys that, or 7 out of 10 just aren't a good fit, that actually is a pretty normal ratio. Remember, because on the internet, everyone thinks they have a chance. It's not like real life. The internet's just like a different universe. In the internet, I'm 5'2", 300 pounds, I can approach the supermodel. But real life, the guy would never do that. So you're going to get that. I'm 40 years older than you. Would you consider dating a man 40 years older? In real life, they wouldn't. With the internet, why not? So you're going to get that stuff. That's what goes with it. But I'd rather have those guys and the ones you want than screen out for the guys that aren't a good fit. All right, let's see. Cindy. I've been seeing this guy. We text during the day, and his text text, are so sweet and thoughtful, but in person he's different, a little colder and as a matter of fact. And sometimes we were texting, he'll just stop replying, and I won't hear from him. When I ask him what he says, you're reading too much into this. What am I missing? Well, in fairness to you, I think you are getting a mixed message. Over a text, it's easier to be playful, flippant, because you're not right there in front of someone. So the good news for me is the fact that you get it in text at all means it does exist. So if you, in text or whatever, if you never saw this playful side, never so sweet, and all he was cold and detached, that would be a lot worse. Why doesn't it happen in real life? Some of it depends on how long you've been going out. Sometimes it just takes men a while to do this. I'll give you an example. There's someone that said to me she was talking to this person a long distance. And so when they would talk on the phone, they'd have a great conversation. But then she'd see him in person, and it'd be at the restaurant, and he wasn't that chatty. And she says, what's different? And she finally figured out, she says, oh, I get it. When we're on the phone, the only thing to do on the phone is talk. But like in person, there's other distraction stuff, and he really wasn't as talkative as she was used to. So now she has to make a decision. Do I really want someone as chatty as he is over the phone all the time? Or can I make the adjustment that he can be chatty at times, but that's not the way he's going to be all the time? And that was sort of the choice for her to decide. And the same with this. So I would give it time. And if he doesn't text, I mean, usually what that means is I'm tired of texting, I'm tired of talking. Now, I think it's fair for you that he should say that. You know, you're reading too much into this because I'm with you. I'm guessing, and I think I'm right, but I might not be. So that's what, if I was doing it, I would ask him, you know, is it that I text too much? You know, is that, you know, I would do something. See, now if he won't give me anything specific, now you're getting into something that's just more passive that he doesn't, that depends on his mood. You know, if he's in a good mood, he's really cuddly, sweet, and all that. But if he's in a bad mood, he's more distant, which that's kind of normal for men in general. But I think you're talking about like a higher degree of that discrepancy. And that gets into, is this someone that could have fit for you? Because if you ask someone if something's wrong and they won't tell you specifically, then you know you have to guess, and then they don't like to address it. It's just when they're mad, they just want you to understand they're mad and leave them alone. And again, in fairness, that drives most women crazy. I tell men this: you don't want to do that. And that's okay if you're mad, but you got to give her an idea of why. Because she's going to make assumptions. Her imagination is going to work against you. She's going to blame herself for stuff that may or may not be true. All right, thanks, Ed. All right, Faye, we've been seeing each other for almost 2 years now, and he went from being totally head over heels to now everything is blah, we don't even have intimacy. The last time was in November of 2016 that I found out he didn't even send me a Valentine's Day card. It's a long-distance relationship, but I still go out of my way to make him feel loved, and I honestly feel like I'm getting nothing in return. I love him, but I can't live like an invisible girlfriend, someone who doesn't even see or acknowledge. So my question is, since you're giving most of this, that is what you're saying, you could ask him what's wrong. I'm sure you probably have. Is something wrong? Or usually what I say is, you know, is something wrong, or are you upset with me? Most of the time, even if someone is, especially a man, they're going to say no. Nothing's wrong. Okay. And the reason you do that to begin with is that you didn't start with an assumption that you knew what the problem is. Even if you're right, people, men especially, don't like you telling them what the problem is. They may not be ready to do it. I may be mad at you because you raised your voice at me. But if you start with, I know you're mad because I yelled at you, the first instinct is going to be, no, I'm not. You know, how dare you be so presumptive, even if you're right. So I start with that question. Is anything wrong or upset? No. Okay, well, then you have it sort of a license to say, well, and then you lay out your stuff. You know, we don't, you know, I don't hear from you that much. You try to be specific. We don't talk. Even on Valentine's Day, you didn't say anything. So I don't know, something's wrong. I just don't know what. so I figured I would ask. And then you wait. Because that's about as soft as we can make it for him. See, if there's a problem, I don't like trying to charm, especially not seduce. I don't like to, if someone's in a bad mood, I don't like for a woman to be wonderful enough to stop bad behavior. I think that only rewards bad behavior and you get more of it. But I do like asking, and asking up front. Now, I don't know what he'll say. Maybe he says, I'm mad because of so-and-so. Maybe he says, I just don't feel like what I used to. I don't know. But at least for me, that's the way to find out what's going on, or at least to give him the chance. Because what you're talking about is you're giving more than you're getting, and that by definition is how you create resentment. And resentment is what will happen given enough time. It's not sustainable. So that's what I would do. I would have that conversation with him. All right, my question is, how do I get him back? This is an easy one. You go to howdoigetHimBack.com. We have a whole program for that because every situation is a little different. So howdoigetHimBack.com is our solution for how do I get my ex back. Sarah, why do men nowadays have zero concern for women's safety and dating? They seem totally self-centered. It's like men nowadays are horrible, rude, vile monsters and no humanity whatsoever, and zero calling that is genuine. Well, I don't doubt, Sarah, that this has come from an experience, as in you're not making this up. So, and yeah, I don't know that all men are like that, but you do raise a valid point. Now, this may not be the politically correct answer. I don't think there's one thing. There's a couple of things. One is, and I'm going to ask y'all to at least consider what I'm saying first, just so no one blows up the question line or the chat line, is, and this is in no particular order. One is with women getting more independent, especially in the workforce, men are used to seeing women as peers in the sense of it's that masculine energy. I mean, at work we're all masculine. And it's not an excuse to be rude or vile. That's not the other main cause of it. But that's part of it is in the sense of a lot of times I find a lot of women will talk about going back to the 50s. That was a horrible time. Women were subservient. But one of the things that used to be was men were more indoctrinated, if I can say that, toward the virtues of femininity or the virtues of a woman. I don't mean just virtues as in like virgin virtues, but the softness, the tone of her voice, what feminine does, which leads us to the second point, which I think is a bigger problem, which is with the internet especially, more men nowadays are engaged in pornography. And what that does is it desensitizes them towards the virtues of a woman, the value, the expensive, the wonderfulness of a woman, because with pornography, it's available whenever you want it. You want to simulate sex, it doesn't matter if the woman's in the mood or not. Pornography, she's always in the mood. And she's in the mood for whenever you want. And it's the privacy, and there's no risk involved. There's no, you ask out a woman, there's a risk. She could turn you down. Nope, don't have to deal with that. And that's probably, I think, the bigger driver of it. I mean, there's some of it too that, the divorce rate's higher. I mean, it's a combination thing. But if I had to pick one thing, it's that pornography is probably the biggest thing that's doing a lot of discredit to relationships because you don't have to grow up or invest or take risk with that. And a lot of men are starting pornography younger and younger. I mean, it's at least from my perspective, it's kind of scary. And, a real-life relationship with a woman is wonderful, but it's also challenging at times. I mean, women are wonderful, but they're high energy at times. They disagree with you. They have opinions. I mean, I'm saying this tongue-in-cheek. But and if you're wrong, they'll point it out. I mean, it's a relationship. Now, you can't have intimacy without all of that. And again, going back to what porn does, is it gives the illusion that I can have this real intense intimacy without any conflict, you can't. Because part of the intimacy isn't just when things are going well. Part of the intimacy is that I know I can count on you when things are bad. I know, And when you find a woman that's loyal like that, well, there's nothing better. I mean, that's the stuff that inspires men that they could conquer the world. They can make tons of money, or climb mountains, swim oceans, all of that stuff. The fact that she believes in you. But to do that, you have to have disagreements with her where she stands up to you respectfully, but still firmly stands up to you. Point stuff out. When you're angry, that she doesn't back down just because you're angry. So that's a long version, but and that's part of the reason why when I tell women, please don't sleep with them so quick, or please don't be too accommodating. And I'm actually trying to go against the, gosh, if I'm not accommodating, he'll leave me. And I'm more inclined to say next. I mean, that's easy for me to say, but I'll tell my daughter that. And I want her to marry someone wonderful. And I don't mean like, you're the best in the world and all men are idiots. I don't believe that. I just believe that men value things that are expensive, things that they have to work for. I just, with everything, homes, cars, a woman, anything, men do view all of that as a possession. Don't mean that to be ugly, but not a possession like something cheap, but something to be worked for, something to better myself as a man to obtain. And I think it does men a disservice when women are too accommodating. I know the risk involved. He won't like me. There are women that will be more accommodating. There are women like that. There are also women that will do lots of stuff that you would never do, but that's not what you're after. What you're after is someone that puts your heart first, that loves making you happy. And he's got to know that you believe you're worth that. Not perfect, but that your heart is worth putting first. All right, so thanks for that question. It gives me a chance to segue a little bit. Jennifer asked, my guy's currently in the disillusionment stages. She's referring to the bonding code. We've been dating for 2 years. I'm ready to take our relationship further. He hasn't told his ex-wife about me yet. I'm afraid he's afraid it will mess up the cooperating co-parenting arrangement. He's admitting feeling stuck. I've been patient. What things can I say in this situation to comfort him? I'm losing that patience. Will my normalizing his place he's in help him take the next step? They're great otherwise. That's a tough one, Jennifer, for this reason. I can't give you a general response for yours as far as I can't say do X, but I can tell you in general. I should say it that way. So if it's been 2 years, my concern is if you've been dating 2 years, I don't know what's different between 2 years, 4 years, and 6 years, as in I don't know what he's waiting on with her. It sounds like he's just afraid to mess it up, which if they're 2 small kids, that could be 10 years. So I don't know that if you push this now, the alternative is alter the options are, do you want to push it or you want to wait until he feels comfortable? Waiting could mean lots of time. And part of the normalizing this place, it's normal to feel that. I'm with you on that. But there's something you need, as in how long would you wait? Because this really gets into you. How long are you willing to wait for him? Because right now his ex-wife, whether she means to or not, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she would handle this better than he thinks. Maybe not. Maybe she would. So he's afraid to mess it up. Well, he has an ex-wife. He has to deal with her at some point. I mean, he doesn't have to, but he's going to have to for you guys to progress, it sounds like. So, and yes, with small children, men that divorce small children, that is a tough one because there's a lot of times a lot of guilt they feel in missing out on the time spent with their kids. That is absolutely a tough one. There's no way around that. He doesn't want as much quality time. So I would find out with him, and the first thing is for you to decide yourself, what's my number? I mean, how long do I give him? Is it 2 years, 3 years? Is it 4? Is it 1 more month? Is it? And the number is when you decide to push it. In other words, where you're able to say to yourself, I've waited long enough. I don't know what to tell you what that number should be. But that's when you're looking for. Is this the number? Is this so that if I mention it with him, it's, sweetie, I need you to decide if we're going to progress, then we need to tell your ex-wife, however that goes. And then it's a question with him. He's in the, disillusionment. I think for him, what he's in right now, it's not so much with you and him as much as he feels it's that fear of losing his kids, that his wife would do something punitive. I don't know the legal situation. And maybe he feels fortunate to have the co-parenting. But that's really something I would ask him as far as, tell me what the options are with us. Or is this what I should expect, indefinitely? Because he's the one that's enabling this, unless there's something we don't know about legally that he can't. And then I would find out with him so I would have an idea. Because that's not unrealistic or asking too much, I don't think, from your end, to actually have someone progress, especially after it's been a couple of years. I think that's more than a fair request. All right, let's see. Judy has a couple of questions. Let's see. The man you are dating, what does it mean, or does it truly matter if they say their family never really liked their ex, yet the family members still have the man's ex on their Facebook contact? I don't know that means a whole lot, mainly because for a lot of people, I'm generalizing, but they get a Facebook contact and they forget who's on their contacts. Unless someone's posting like messages and then you unfollow them or delete them. So it depends on what they mean by didn't really like them. If they hated them and have them on there, I think that's kind of weird. But I don't know that means a whole lot. If you said, but they still have lunch with him every week, okay, that would be strange, because why are you having lunch with someone that you didn't really like? But I don't know about a Facebook contact. I wouldn't read much into that. Situation I have been in, but somewhat resolved a year later, it doesn't bother me. I'm more curious, what can you say, or what does it mean when you ask your man what happened in their past relationship that was serious enough to have lived with a woman, but they say their ex hurt them, but they don't tell you what happened? What I'm asking is, what if your man shuts down by saying it doesn't matter, I don't want to talk about it? Okay, generally what that means is they don't want someone trying to help them, or they don't want to relive it, because if it's so painful. It's the picture I use a lot is, especially if a man, something bad's happened to him and it was really humiliating, and someone tricked him, and they tricked him somehow to get dressed in his underwear and go to this room at work or something, or to do something, to wear this clown outfit or something, and they walked into the room and there's the boss giving a presentation and they're humiliated. And then someone says later, hey, you want to talk about it? I don't want to talk about it. Oh my gracious, why do I want to remember that again? That's humiliating. Yuck. See, men don't cathartically like that. It feels terrible. They don't want to talk about it, because to them it's like saying, I don't want to relive it. So now, would I want to know in case it might be impacting my relationship? Yeah, maybe, but then I'm more inclined to go, what's going on in my relationship that concerns me? So some of this also gets into, okay, it's a year later, what things is he doing that concerns you? How does he handle conflict? That would be one. And he doesn't want to talk about it. So sometimes I might just gently probe that, or just, every month or so, or just as it came up. I'm looking for a situation where either he brings it up or there's something where it would naturally lend to that conversation. I wouldn't just sit down and say, let's talk about your ex, because it probably is just such a bad memory that men don't like to talk about that. We like to forget painful things. But I do think it could be helpful for him. But my guess is there may come a situation or something that comes up where it will come out. That's my guess. It might not with some men. But if he's handling conflict well, and you like the way he does it, he does talk about it, I don't know that it's critical for a man that he reveal that to you. In hindsight, I've had men share things. Usually it's his clients. Usually they don't do that as friends, but I've had men share things that I didn't really think were that big a deal, but it really bothered them. It was just embarrassing to them. And they didn't want someone judging them. And they certainly didn't want someone trying to help them or trying to say, I understand, or poor boy, or something like that. A lot of times it is the fear of your reaction. even though your intentions are well, even though you probably would hand it wonderful, and that also between the fear of the reaction and just the memory of it is just overwhelming. That's why it's why they don't want to talk about it. So so I wouldn't with that caveat unless you're seeing stuff in your current relationship. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll do one or two more. Thank you for your job. You're welcome. My question, recently I met a man and we started dating. It lasted 4 months. He was taking the initiative. By his actions, he showed me that he was serious. He introduced me, to his family, his kids, made plans for the future. Then I felt the change in his attitude. And a week after felt this change, he told me that he didn't really love me as he's supposed to be. He felt that he started to feel connection, but it did not become stronger. I let him go with that drama, but should I take his words literally? I don't like the feeling inside of me, kind of rejection. Why am I not loved? Okay, 4 months. This is one that I'm more interested in the man in general, which is, if he was my client, what I'm looking for is, I would suspect this has come up before with him. When a man says that, I don't feel the strongest connection as I think it should be, or the connection isn't as strong as it should be, usually what they're referring to is it's something that's more adrenaline-based. So remember, early on in a relationship, it's full of adrenaline. The hormones are pumping through us like cocaine. Everything is effortless. He looks at you, you smile, he falls over, he wants to buy you things, put his hands all over you, introduce you to everyone, and he's literally on a high. I mean, as far as his brain goes, literally, it's like his brain's on cocaine. But we know biologically that cannot last. Just your body would break down if it stayed like that. So then the adrenaline starts to die down. The euphoria dies down, perfectly normal, acceptable, as the brain starts to transition into a longer-term way of relating to you. Much as we'd all love to keep the intensity up all the time, that's bad. Unless you want to have a drama-filled relationship, a lot of fighting, breaking up, getting back together, back and forth. It's really intense, really good, but it's also really horrible. So when that dies down, the thinking is, oh, it should feel intense all the time. Wrong, but that's the belief. At least if a man says that to me, or a woman, gosh, it should feel more intense than this. After 4 months, maybe not. I mean, at some point in there, there's going to come some disillusionment. So I'm more curious about him, meaning I don't think you're going to find something you did to make that go away. I wish I could. That would make it easier if I could tell you that. If it was, there's a big fight, then we broke up, okay, we could point to that. If there was, some instances or something that had happened, we could tie to that. I don't think you're going to find, at least based on what you wrote. And then it gets into him, should I take him seriously? I'd like to see what he does if you leave him alone. See, because we don't want to rescue that. If a man starts to pull away, we want to let them pull away so that he can realize that what he's experienced with you doesn't come along every day. See, what he's doing is, like we said, like in dating sites. We flip from one profile to the other because I've got 1,000 choices. Well, I really don't, but it feels that way. Even more so when he's met someone, wants to introduce him, his family, his kids, make plans with him. What I think happened with him, and they get really intense, that dies away, is he got too excited too fast. He crashed is what I think happened. And so in his mind, when it crashed, again, I'm guessing, it crashed, and all of a sudden, because it crashed is because something's wrong. No, it crashed probably because it overheated too quick. He made plans for the future too quickly. He introduced you too quickly. And then it came crashing down, and he doesn't know that's normal. So I would let it cool down. Is there a chance he never comes back? Yes, there's a chance he never comes back. But what I want him to feel is I want him to feel what it's like without you for a while. I mean, hopefully not too long. I don't know that I would do anything to encourage him, because what he's feeling, that overwhelmed thing, the overwhelm goes down when you leave it alone. It's like draining water out of something. If you leave him alone, I would give you something magical to say, but when a man's like that, what I'm trying to get someone to do is to actually stay away. Now, if he calls or contacts, be nice, be courteous, but don't spend a lot of time on the phone. Don't overstay your welcome. Don't try to be helpful. The worst thing during this time is him taking you for granted, and that's what this sounds like. This was wonderful and effortless, but it's a 9, but I want a 10. Well, no, 9s don't come along that often. At least that's your mentality. And I want him to realize that once it goes back down, starts to simmer back down from an 8, 7, 6, at some point, that what he's feeling will start to die down, and that's your chance for him to realize, I kind of miss her, or just. So when he does, don't let him come back too quickly. Don't rush it. Don't let it get intense quickly. Don't do that. It may feel good. Pace him, pace him, pace him. So I have a feeling he will, but I would let him have his space. And the idea going forward is that if he does this, takes you for granted, you create distance. Not that you want to, but this intensity thing that he focuses on, that's what we have to do with someone like that. All right, let's do one more. Let's see, Claudette. Let's see, Bob, I've begun dating someone new. He has since recently admitted he was always dating and apologized for confusing me. Am I a fool to take him back knowing he dates around? I understand what he needs, but how can I give him what he wants when I was so insecure in this phase? How do we women have intimate and rich experiences with men early in this phase and stay emotionally attached while they multi-date? I don't buy the wait for exclusivity before you have sex advice. It doesn't seem real world. The guy will have sex with others, something in investment. I'm assuming that means build a connection. Well, Claudette, I appreciate the honest question. So let's define at least what I think intimacy is. So intimacy, and some of this we alluded to earlier, is not just about intensity. A lot of folks confuse intimacy and intensity. Intense feels really great. Remember, men bond through a commitment. Women bond through their bodies primarily. It's not that men can't bond through their bodies. It's just that when a man's having a sexual experience with you, even if it's incredibly intense, he's not bonding. Women are bonding. I mean, unless the woman shuts down emotionally. And because the women know once you sleep with someone, it does something to you. It just does. It's just biology. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. And it has nothing to do with who's stronger or weaker, just the way we're wired. And so will he have sex with other women? He very well might. But if we have to have sex with him to keep him, I beg you to run away. I beg you. I beg you. I'm not telling you. I am begging you to run away if it takes that to keep him in. Because I do not like the idea. I do not like these two words together. Women cheap or women convenient. 3 words. Don't like those. Don't like those at all. So I'm not saying someone is cheap, you sleep with a guy. I don't mean that. What I mean is where you give a lot more than you get. That's how I define cheap or convenient. A woman giving her body or giving her heart, I don't know what more there is to give. So when I think about intimacy, I'm talking about building something, because intimacy is something you don't want to rush. I don't mean let's stretch it out forever, but I tell women is if this is someone you like and a guy's dating around, I tell women to say is I understand, I'm not into sharing. It's not ugly, just don't prefer it. See, we're not even saying it's right or wrong. But if someone still needs to shop around, that's okay. I'm probably not your girl. I'm probably not the one for you. Now, you have to have the courage to follow through this, because if you want to stand out, he's got to see that you're willing to put your heart ahead of his. We're not making him do anything. I'm just not into sharing. See, that the problem becomes mine. It's my problem. It's not his problem. It's mine. He says, I understand, and he goes and sleeps around. See, because that's the case, no matter how many wonderful qualities, he's not ready. He's not ready. So am I a fool for taking it back? It depends. If he says, look, I'm going to date around, would you like to go out? And you say, I'm just not into sharing. That's not my thing. And he says, okay, well, then I just want to date you. Okay, that's different. Would I give him a chance then? Sure. Do I want to give my heart to someone without knowing they're going to stick around? I wouldn't. I'm not saying you can't. I wouldn't. And remember, and here's my argument that I give women is, and some of you have heard this, here's a great guy. He's really, really handsome, really successful, and you meet him. Would you give him control of all your money? Because there's this great emotional connection. And most would say no, hopefully. Say, well, when you sleep with him, you give him part of your heart. I think that's more valuable than your money. See, there's like a different criteria. Give him control of all my money? Yipes. Don't know that I'd ever give a guy control of all my money. But just based on a connection, no, anyone you would give control of your money would be because based on time, because you trust their character. In other words, there's more to it than just a connection. And that's what I'm after. Is a connection's not enough. It feels wonderful, not minimizing it. But that's not enough to give a guy your heart. So I don't like sharing. I'm not, I mean, if everybody just casual dating, that's fine. But if I'm not into sharing, I wouldn't do it. And that's just part of your signature. I don't like it. And I'm not ugly about it. I'm very nice about it and stuff. And I say, it's my fault. It's my fault. So anyway, I think you got the point. Let's do one more before we wrap up. One more. Let's see. I'm a virtual girlfriend. Valentine's Day coworker gave me flowers. I posted on Facebook because he's a coworker. Okay, so let me do one first. This is not to fuss, okay? This is not to fuss. The good news is with so many people, with just me talking, everybody's not talking over. The downside is I say stuff and I realize you don't have the advantage of talking back, so I'm not trying to browbeat. So if you posted flowers a coworker gave you, it's a guy, most guys aren't going to like that. Mainly because it's open to interpretation. And it catches them off guard. Before the previous weekend, he apologized in advance that he had a lot of work to do. Let's see. My question is, what should I do now? Should I just wait? Should I just wait when he contacted me again? In a short chat we have, I noticed he was jealous. I told him that the flowers came from a coworker. No feelings from him. That I just told him how. Okay. See, this is what men know. From a man's standpoint, why is another man sending her flowers? Because men don't generally do that. I'm not questioning the motives of him or you. I'm just in his perspective. That's why is someone sending her flowers? Let's see. So I love you. I said no. Okay. So I think what you're asking is, what do I do? What do I do to appease him, or what do I do to normalize this? Probably the short answer has more to do with he's probably going to be upset. In other words, he probably isn't going to like it. And you want to just let him have that, because there's a certain part, if my intentions are innocent, I can say, oops, sorry, and then I just have to let the person be upset. And they may be upset longer than I want it to, because if I try too hard, look, I'm really sorry, I'm super sorry, I'm super sorry times 5, see, then it comes across like I'm not being sincere. So he probably got caught off guard, probably didn't like it, which I can understand that from a guy's standpoint. The flowers weren't from him, which on one hand, I'm just saying this tongue-in-cheek, he should have sent you flowers himself if he's so concerned, but that's another conversation. And not that you did this, okay? Not that you did this. Sometimes women will do stuff like this to make a guy jealous. I'm not saying you did this, but just a teaching moment. The problem with that is, unless you know what you're doing, once you make a man jealous, you lose control as to what direction that's going to go. He could be jealous and react the way you want to come closer to you. He could be jealous and react the way you don't want, which is more likely. Either not talk for a while, get really mad and stuff. So you want to be careful with being clever, making a man jealous. That's a real strategic thing to be used rarely and extremely carefully. Okay, so that's the short answer to that. I would give it time more than anything else. Okay. Oh, well, I want to thank everyone for this time together as we start off this new year. We'll look to do another one before long, and then of course we'll do our 6 weeks. Gosh, I can tell I've talked so much. We'll do our 6 weeks to a strong man program. That'll be coming up. Those of you who did attend last time, we had a wonderful time with the group, especially toward the end. That's when everything always starts to come together. So we'll look forward to that, and we'll send that out to you. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of February. We'll see if we can do this again in March. And thank you so much for taking the time. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Take care.